Hey everybody, this is the Greater Estimator, and welcome back to another episode of Auto Body 101, the show where we look at the vehicles that have been involved in a car accident, and we look at their photographs, both pre and post repair, and we talk about everything that it took to return that vehicle to pre-loss condition. Now, for all intents and purposes, what type of car we're looking at doesn't really matter. Well, the only thing that matters is the damage on the vehicle and what it's going to take to repair that car. All right. So in this picture here, we have a gray sedan, and the damage is located on the right side rear of the vehicle. So that's the passenger side rear, and it's centralized on the passenger side rear door panel and the quarter panel as well. And there could be a little bit on the front door. I can't see from the picture, but I would venture to say that there is. All right, so let's talk about this car. Now, the damage to the door definitely warrants a replacement. It's pretty obvious to me. The deep dent, like you can see, it's dented sort of on the bottom. You see a horizontal or diagonal line. That is most likely going to be the reinforcement bar that is inside the door shell. Now, once that reinforcement bar has been compromised in any way, you must replace the door. So yeah, I would definitely replace this door shell. When it comes to doors, a lot of people don't know that doors are serviced two ways. They can either be serviced as an entire complete door shell or as an outer panel only. Some high-end vehicles such as Mercedes and BMWs, they only service their doors as door shells, or they only service them as door shells when I was writing cars, which was a few years ago. But for all intents and purposes, we're going to just go ahead and replace this door shell. And there are two ways that you can do this. You can get this door shell as a brand new complete shell from the OEM, the dealership, or you can get it from a salvage yard or junkyard. You can get it used. Now, in this case, I would go for a used door shell. And the reason is this: when you purchase a door shell from an OEM, from a dealership, all you're getting is the door shell. All right. Now, looking at this door, I would bet that there's damage to a lot of the components inside, if not all of them. So I would go ahead and get a used door shell, because when you get the door shell from the junkyard, it comes with everything. It comes with the window regulator. It's going to come with the door trim. It's going to come with the body side molding, everything. And if you look at the lower portion of the door, I would venture to say that the body side molding is damaged. It could warrant a repair and a refinish. And that be about it for the body side molding. As far as the door is concerned, once you get that door open, there could be damage to the door trim. Now that's the panel on the inside of the door. You know where your armrest is. That's where your window controls are, the pockets for the door and all that stuff. So yeah, it would be great if you could get all of that in the same color as the door trim that's already on the car from the salvage yard. That would be great, because I can't say for sure that the door trim is damaged, but if it is and you do need to get one, it'd be nice if all that came with the used door. Okay, so yeah, definitely the door shell has to go. The body side molding is going to need a repair. The stripe tape on the door, that's going to have to be replaced, and the stripe tape is the black tape that surrounds the door. It could be stripe tape, or it could also be an applique. The applique is towards the front of the door. All right, it's the vertical piece towards the front of the door. That's not going to need to be replaced. That's just going to have to be removed and installed, or RNI. RNI stands for remove and install. All that basically means is you take it off and you put it back on. Okay, but if there is stripe tape on the door, on the upper panel, on the upper portion, I should say, that's definitely going to need to be replaced. All right, the door handle is going to have to come off the door. That's going to have to be refinished. All that stuff. Okay, so the door shell definitely has to go. All right, now I want to look at the front door. It does not appear that there's any damage on the front door, but there could be on the edge. And if there's even some on the edge, it's going to need to be repaired. Either way, you're going to have to paint that door, that passenger side front door, because it is an adjacent panel. What happens is, this is an older model car, so that paint has been on that car for years now. Okay, so once you refinish that rear door, after you replace it, that paint is going to look way different or newer than the paint on the adjacent panels, being the front door and the quarter panel. So you're going to have to blend that door that outer door panel anyway. So if you do need to repair it, it's no big deal because you'd have to refinish it anyway in a blend. All right, and in order to refinish a door panel or any part of a car, you're gonna have to remove everything on that door panel. Sometimes you can tape it off. Sometimes it's improper, sometimes it's not, but I would say it is always best to pay to R&I, remove and install all those components. So the body side molding on the bottom, the door handle. A lot of times, in order to get to the door handle, you have to take off the trim inside of the door. On some of the newer cars, there's a little hole. If you look on the door jamb, you open up the door, you look on the door jamb, there's gonna be a black rubber piece. All right, and that piece covers up the access to the door handle. So sometimes you don't have to actually take off the interior trim panel. You can just remove that rubber piece and that'll give you access to remove the door handle. All right, but definitely the applique, the vertical piece, just like on the rear door, there's one on the back of the front door, that vertical piece, it's black. Okay, that has to be removed and installed. Also the body side molding on the bottom, you're gonna have to remove and install that, and you're most likely gonna have to refinish that also. You're gonna have to blend that. Well, actually, it may not be necessary to refinish the body side molding because that is just a plastic piece, and paint adheres differently to metal than it does to plastic, so it's never going to match anyway. The paint on the body side molding will never match the paint on the door. And if you look at your door panel very closely, it doesn't matter if it's an old car or a brand new car, it's always going to look different because of the difference in the material. All right, one is plastic, one is metal, so the paint is going to adhere differently to plastic than it does to metal. So it's not necessary to refinish the body side moldings or the door handle, right? Those are just plastic pieces. Okay, now moving on to the rear of the vehicle, if you look at the quarter panel, if you look at the lower portion, it's sort of curved and it's adjacent to the door. If you look at that part of the quarter panel, it is mangled. Okay, yeah, you're gonna have to replace that quarter panel. You're gonna need to replace that quarter panel. And the reason being is there is some a lot of buckling going on the upper, like sort of, it's close to the middle part of the quarter panel. All right, there's some buckling there. Now, when a vehicle is hit, the usual type of damage that you see are dents, and that's when the impact is hard enough to push the metal in. All right, but depending on the way a vehicle is hit, especially sometimes if you look at a rear end collision, if the vehicle is hit hard enough, the impact will be so great that it will force any panels attached to the panel that was in the initial hit outward. All right, and that's what we call buckling. That's where buckles come from. All right, it's a lot of pressure that is on the panel forcing it outward, and you can see it right there on the I don't want to say the rear, it's more towards it's close to the door, but it's that circuit, that portion of our circle right there. All right, those are buckles, and you can see it's quite a way away from the initial, the original point of impact, which is the dog leg and the rear door. So yeah, man, you're gonna have to replace this quarter panel. I mean, you're gonna have to replace it. Now, the reason why I wouldn't want to repair this is going to be a lot of work. Now, a lot of people don't know this, lay people don't know this, but the quarter panel, it comes in two portions, right? You have the outer quarter panel, which is the part of the quarter panel that you can see. Then there's also an inner quarter panel, and these are right on top of each other, all right? And they're attached using pinch welds. Okay, sometimes adhesive, sometimes both. Now, in order to get access to repair the inner and the outer corner panel, you're gonna have to drill out the pinch weld. It's gonna be an improper repair to try to repair this thing. You're gonna have to replace it. It's gonna be a lot of work. Number one, it's gonna cost the insurance company a lot of money and the body shop a lot of time. Now, if the damage was just localized on the dog leg, I would say, you know what? Instead of replacing the entire quarter panel, let's just buy a used quarter panel and section in the dog leg. All right. And what happens when you section in a dog leg is or section in any part of a vehicle that has any part of a panel that has been damaged, is you're cutting off just the area of the panel that has been damaged, and then you're replacing it with a brand new or used part in that area instead of replacing the entire thing. Because To replace this entire quarter panel, you're going to have to cut it up by the sail panel, and you're going to have to cut it down by the rocker panel. All right, this car doesn't have a rocker molding, so what you're looking at, the part of the car where you would put your side skirts, yeah, that's the rocker panel. And sometimes you have a rocker panel molding that goes over it. On this car, it does not look like you have that. So you're going to have to cut it down by the rocker. You're going to have to cut it up by the sail panel in order to replace this quarter panel. And that's after you drill out all the pinch wells that are attaching this vehicle to the rear body panel, the floor pan, and all that. You have gussets, all kind of stuff. All right. Now, in order to replace the quarter panel on this vehicle, there's a few things you have to do. Some of these are included operations, some of them are not. And this is what people who aren't in the business don't understand. There's a lot that goes into the repair of a vehicle. All right. In order to replace this quarter panel, you have to remove the seats. You have to remove the headliner on the car. You're going to have to remove the fuel tank. You're going to have to remove the wheel. You're going to have to remove the bumper cover, obviously. And the bumper looks like it was damaged in the collision. So, yeah, you're going to have to remove it and repair it anyway, but we're going to get to that. All right. Like I said, you have to drill out all the pinch wells that attach this vehicle to the floor pan and the rear body panel. You have gussets. There's a whole bunch of things that goes into replacing a quarter panel. All right. The spare tire has to come out. Any wiring has to be removed. The back glass has to come out. The roof moldings has to come out. All right. All these things. And like I said, some of these are included operations because to remove and replace a quarter panel, the book time is usually anywhere between 8 and 12 hours. That's a lot of time. But then again, some of the things that I'm mentioning are not included and they have to be paid for. So like the back glass, once you take out the back glass, now you have to pay to have it reinstalled. All right. Also, stuff like that isn't included. Those are line items that you'll have to add at the end of the estimate. Okay. But yeah, there's a lot of things that goes into the repair of a car, especially the replacement of a quarter panel. It's a lot of work. All right, so now that we've got the quarter panel out of the way, and also another thing, gonna have to remove the tail lights. All right, so you move the tail light, you move the bumper cover. Now you're all good to replace the quarter panel. Now, I mentioned the bumper before. It looks like there's some scratches or a scrape on the bumper cover. So yeah, we'll R&I the bumper cover. We'll repair that. Does not warrant a replacement. That's just maybe an hour and a half to 2 hour repair, depending on your negotiating skills. Okay, so now we've got that out of the way. Once you remove the quarter panel, you'll have access to the inner quarter, and the inner quarter, I'm thinking, is going to need a repair. It's going to need a repair. But again, the shop is going to try to get you to pay for this off the bat. You, as an insurance adjuster, that's something that you're going to need to see and take photographs of. Your supervisor is definitely going to want to see photographs of it, even though it's obvious. It is definitely obvious. However, if you can manage to get this quarter panel used, then the inner quarter panel is going to come with it. All right. But now when you do, there's pros and cons to everything. If you get a quarter panel straight from the dealership, it's clean. It's just the outer quarter panel. You remove the quarter panel that's on the car right now. You repair the inner quarter, and then you put the new quarter panel on. All right. It's very cut and dry. If you get it from a junkyard, sometimes all they do is cut off the piece of the car that you need, put it on the truck, and send it to you. All right. So when they cut it off, it's going to come with the headliner attached. Sometimes it's going to come with half the back glass still in. It's going to come with half the rear body panel on that side, half the floor pan, everything. All right. It's going to come with all that stuff. And then that's additional time that the shop is going to need to remove all the things that they don't need on the junkyard part, so that they can replace what needs to be replaced, take what needs to be taken from the junkyard part and put it on the vehicle to repair it. All right. So, and there's additional time that they're going to need for that. But the good part of that is sometimes if you do end up needing an inner quarter panel, it's right there. It comes with the junkyard part. All right. Say you're doing a car that was hitting the rear, you can buy an entire rear clip. You know what I'm saying? So instead of buying a floor pan, a rear body panel, the rear bumper cover and all that stuff separately, all of it might just come on the truck. All right. They'll just cut off the back of the car and send it to you. And you can take everything that you need from that used clip. All right. So yeah, there's pros and cons to everything. In a case like this, depending on what the shop sees when they cut the quarter panel off the car, it may make more sense to just buy a used quarter panel. It's going to make more sense to buy it, I'm thinking anyway, because it is usually a lot cheaper. So yeah, now that we've gotten the quarter panel out of the way, let's talk about the rim. Now, I cannot see and make a definitive determination on whether or not the rim is damaged, but if there are scratches on the wheel, regardless of whether they look old or not, you're going to need to take the wheel off the car and allow for the wheel to be reconditioned. Usually it's under $200. It was when I was riding cars. I don't know where it is now, but it should be maybe 175. I remember Wheel Fix It was about 175, and you'll have to allow for a 25% markup on that. And the reason why you allow for a markup is this: the shop likes to make money on everything that they do. Now, when you buy a used part, for instance, when you buy a used part, the shop pays whatever the price is. All right. So if it's $300, the shop will pay $300, and they'll charge you a 25% markup on that. So it'll be $300 plus $75. They'll pay $300. They'll charge the insurance company $375. When a shop purchases a part from a dealership, they usually get a discount. All right. So let's say it's 25%. If the part is $300, the dealership will charge them $225. But the price that you see on the estimate is going to be $300, right? So that's the way that works. The shop has to make money on everything that they do. That includes subletting out any wiring repair that may need to be done, or reprogramming of many modules, or airbag units, things like that. Anything that the shop cannot do in-house and they have to contract it out, the shop likes to make money on that stuff, and usually the markup is 25%. Okay, so yeah, you're gonna have to take the wheel off if there are any scratches on that wheel, and I would think that there are, or any scratches on the tire that any marks on the tire that look fresh. Yeah, take the wheel off, recondition it, and once you do that, now you have access to the suspension. So you take the wheel off. Now you're gonna have to take the wheel off anyway, because you're replacing the quarter panel, right? So you have to take the wheel off anyway, and that should be an included operation. If it's not, you got to pay the 0.3 to take it off. And when I say 0.3, I mean 0.3 hours. Okay, so now you remove the wheel, you have access to the suspension on the vehicle. Now you can look at the shock, you can look at any control arms, you can look at the subframe, you can look at the spring for the shock. All that stuff will be right there. You'll be able to see it. And if there's any damage, usually it's going to be to the strut, which is the weakest part of the suspension. So if there are any marks on the strut, I'm replacing it. Whether or not it looks like it's related is irrelevant. It's there, I'm replacing it. I'm not going to take the chance. So yeah, you take the wheel off. If there's any damage to the suspension, definitely go ahead and replace what you see and allow for a wheel alignment. Now you're going to have to allow for one anyway, because like I said, this vehicle looks like it was hit on the wheel. There could be scratches on the wheel. Take the wheel off, send it to be reconditioned. Once it comes back, put the wheel on, and now you have to allow for a wheel alignment. All right, when the wheel alignment comes back, you'll see all the specs. It'll have the camber, the caster, and the toe. That's something we'll get into in another video. But those are the specifications that the vehicle suspension must be in order to pass. Green is good, red is out of spec, completely out of spec. All right, but we'll get into that in another video. But for all intents and purposes, let's just say that the suspension is fine. You've taken the wheel off, reconditioned it, put it on, sent it for wheel alignment, suspension is fine. All right, so now you see another line on the aperture. It's going from the sail panel all the way towards the front, that curved arrow. Yeah, that's something called up and over. Now, because you're replacing the quarter panel, and the quarter panel is attached to the aperture, obviously, there's no way. I mean, you can blend the refinish. Obviously, you can blend the paint. I have not yet encountered a shop that can blend clear coat, and clear coat is what you put on the paint after the panel has been painted. Okay, so I've not encountered a shop that can properly blend clear coat. So you're gonna have to scuff the clear coat off the entire aperture panel, and that's from the sail all the way down to the windshield pillar. All right, so all that has to be scuffed off, and then you'll have to clear coat the aperture. You blend the paint, then you clear coat everything. So that's from where you see the tail light on the vehicle all the way up and over down to the windshield pillar. That's why we call it an up and over. And usually to clear coat, to allow for an up and over is about 0.3 hours. Okay, it's about 0.3. So yeah, All in all, something like this is going to cost a few thousand. I can see a hit like this costing about 35, maybe $4,000, maybe 45. And that all depends on what you see once the tear down is complete. And a tear down, what that is the shop removes any parts that on the car that are damaged so that you have access to everything else underneath. All right, like I mentioned, the suspension, when you take the bumper cover off, maybe you know that there's damage there. Maybe one of the vents is damaged behind the bumper cover. You have no idea. All right, you have no idea. Maybe once you take the door off, now you can see there's damage to the C-pillar. Now that's fine because we're going to section in the quarter panel anyway. But let's say that the damage was just on the outer panel itself, and you weren't gonna replace it. You were just gonna do a repair. Now you'd have to allow for a repair on the C-pillar if there's damage. It's a C-pillar or a lock pillar, 6 of one, half a dozen of another. We're talking about the same part on the vehicle, okay? And like I said, any stripe tape that's on the door has to be replaced. There's like you can see a chrome molding. That's going to go from the quarter panel all the way up and over. It follows the aperture, and it could go all the way down to the windshield pillar, something like that. When you replace it, sometimes it gets bent. You'd have to replace that if it gets bent when you take it off. You're going to have to allow for the reveal molding on the windshield, not the windshield, the back glass, I should say, because you have to remove the back glass when you're putting in a quarter panel. All right, when you're sectioning quarter panel, you have to remove the back glass. It's a structural part. If you try to replace the quarter panel without taking out the back glass, there is a chance that it's going to break. All right, and it's going to be more costly to replace the back glass than it is to just remove and replace it. Remove and install it. Okay, so it's always better to just allow for the R&I. And again, that could be an included operation depending on what system you're using, whether CCC Pathways or Autotex or what have you. Okay, so yeah, what I'm doing on this car is definitely, once again, just to rehash it, the major points are going to be the passenger side rear door has to be replaced, the quarter panel. I'm going to section that. And we didn't even talk about setting this vehicle up, measuring it, and pulling it. All right, now I'm looking at the buckling on the car, so there's definitely going to be something going on as far as movement or shifts in the frame, in the unibody rails. So yeah, you want to put this car on the frame machine. Okay, now you don't have any rocker panel moldings that have to be R&I'd or taken off in order for this to happen. So you don't have to pay for the 0.3 or 0.5 or whatever it is to R&I the rocker panel moldings. You're just going to put this car on the frame machine. You're going to set it up and measure it and pull it. Now, typically the setup and measure and the pull is going to be 2 hours to set up and measure and 2 hours to pull. On a hit like this, the shop may want 4 hours, they may want 5 hours. It all depends on what you can negotiate. All right, but the setup and measure is generally 2 hours. On some of the newer machines, it's a little longer because they have lasers and all this new stuff. You have to set up these hanging, I forget what they're called, but they hang them from the bottom of the car, and that's what they use to measure. It's very sophisticated stuff, and it takes more time to set it up and measure. And what you're setting up and measuring, what you're setting up is the car. What you're measuring are the specs, okay? What you want to see is how far out of spec the vehicle is before you pull it, all right? And basically you put it on the machine, you set up the chains, and then you pull the car. The machine pulls the vehicle until it's back into spec. All that has to happen before you replace the quarter panel, all right? That has to happen before you replace the quarter. Because let's say you don't pull it for whatever reason, that would be foolish. If you don't pull it, you try to put the quarter panel on, and it's not going to fit right. All right, now you're looking at the gap between the quarter panel and the rear door. You're like, something's wrong here. It's not matching the other side. That's because you didn't pull the car. And looking at the gap lines on the side of the vehicle that is damaged compared to the side of the vehicle that is not damaged is a good indication of movement or shift in the unibody. All right, so that'll tell you right off the bat, yeah, you're gonna need to set up and measure and pull this car if the gap lines are off. All right, so yeah, we got the door panel, we got the door shell on the rear, on the passenger side rear. We have maybe a repair on the passenger side front door if there is damage on the edge of the door. If not, then definitely you're gonna have to blend it. You're gonna have to, like I said, remove the body side moldings, yada yada yada. We're going to send the vehicle's wheel out for recondition. We're going to send it for wheel alignment, and you need a repair on the rear bumper. So yeah, that's pretty much what you're gonna have to do to get that car looking like the after picture. The before picture is horrible. The after picture looks like the shop did a good job. So yeah, a lot of people don't understand. You might take your car in, and this car looks to be drivable, right? So you're gonna drive this car into a shop, and let's say for some reason you don't have insurance. Why the hell you wouldn't have insurance on a car? I don't know, but let's say you don't have insurance. The shop is gonna hand you a bill for like $4,500, and you're gonna be saying to yourself, why the hell are they charging me something like $4,500 for something that should cost like $1,500 to repair? They don't understand everything involved in the repair of vehicles. They have no idea. It's not their fault. They just don't have the education. But it takes a lot to return a vehicle to pre-loss condition after it's been in a car accident. So yeah, the before picture damaged, after picture completely repaired, and it looks good. All right, but yeah, that's all for this car today. I'm gonna go into a lot of different types of hits. There are tons of different types of hits and a lot of problems that can occur during the course of repairs that we're gonna talk about. A lot of things that insurance companies like to pay for that they don't like to pay for. Things that shops like to do, things that shops don't like to do. The way shops enhance damage. The way insurance companies try to get around paying for things. All right, we're gonna get into a lot of that on this channel. But yeah, that's all for right now. It's your grader estimator, and thanks for tuning into Auto Body 101. I'll catch you on the next hit. Take care.